Because let's be clear, if you lack conviction, you will default to code switching. You become who your audience wants. You keep changing who you are. You start to copy, but copying also means that you're not going to get the result that's designed for you because you're pretending to be and do something else or to be someone else, which is a problem. Did you know that only 1.9% of women entrepreneurs, 0.9% of Black business owners, and just 0.5% of Black women entrepreneurs ever cross the seven-figure mark? That changes right here. If you are ready for high-level, high-income conversations about all things millions, your mission, your mindset, your methodologies, your mandate, your movement, your messaging, your marketing, your metrics, and of course, your money, just by listening, your income is going all the way up. Every week, you'll hear powerful stories, transformational interviews, and million-dollar business growth insights to help you scale and sustain a seven-figure business with grace and ease, not hustle and grind. I am your host, Dr. Darnyelle Jervey Harmon, award-winning spiritual business growth strategist, eight-figure entrepreneur, and God girl on a mission to help you experience abundance in your life because of your business. This is the Move to Millions podcast. Welcome home. Before we dive into this week's episode, let me ask you something real quick. If this podcast has ever made you think deeper, shift something in your spirit, or take bold, bankable action in your business, would you do me a favor? Would you take a moment and scroll down and leave us a rating or review? Listen, that's how we grow this message and get it into the ears of more seven-figure CEOs and seven-figure CEOs in the making. Your words matter. Your support matters. So please take a moment to go ahead, rate, review, and then come right back because this episode is about to shift everything. Welcome back to the Move to Millions podcast. It's your girl, Dr. Darnyelle, God girl, eight-figure entrepreneur, and the award-winning CEO of Incredible One Enterprises, where we transform the soul and strategy of business owners so that they make the move to millions. And just to make sure we're clear and on the same page, when we say millions, we mean millions. It's about wealth, financial legacy, and stewardship out here in these Incredible One Enterprises streets. I'm so excited that you are back with me because we started a powerful new series last week all about being a legacy-led CEO. And I am so excited to share another installment with you. If this is your very first time joining us, I want to say welcome, or actually, I should say welcome home, because I already know that this will not be your last time tuning into an episode. If you have not yet rated or reviewed the show, please take a moment to do so because every rating and review helps us to expand our reach without us having to compromise what's most important to us in the process. Now, in last week's episode, we laid the foundation about being a legacy-led CEO. We were very clear that it is not just about high income. It is actually about being a spiritual architect, building what will outlive you. Now, I will be honest. When I first started my business many, many moons ago, unless this is your very first time here, you know the story. I'm going to do the quick and dirty version. 2004, December, literally walking into the office and being like, this is my last day. Literally. No plan in place, by the way, but just knowing that I was willing to bet on myself. So I did the unthinkable and I quit the good job, the six-figure a year job, to see if I had what it took to be an entrepreneur. Turns out, kind of sort of didn't. I started out in Mary Kay Cosmetics where I did extremely well, getting a pink Cadillac, becoming number one in my national area and a top sales director in my state of Delaware. But within about 2 years, I was burnt out from Mary Kay and I needed to do something different. And that was when I went to bed in October of 2007, and I heard God say, Incredible One Enterprises, and I saw myself walking into a building that had a marquee of the same name. I remember waking up the very next day, October 1st, 2007, and starting what became the first iteration of the company. Now, it took me 9 months to make my first dime. And In so doing, I ended up having to file bankruptcy because I ran out of cash and was living on my credit cards. When I first started this thing, I was not thinking legacy. That was my whole point. I was thinking survival. I was thinking paying my bills. I was thinking not living in my car. I was thinking about something more than ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly, which had become my mainstay in life at that particular point in time. I went back to work. Many of you know this, and the job I took was a godsend. Although it didn't pay a lot of money, I ran the Women's Business Center in the state of Delaware, and that gave me what I didn't know that propelled me to come back into the business full time January 1st, 2011, and actually walk myself into a seven-figure business by 2014. But you know the story if you've been here. I hated my seven-figure business. So 14, 15, we were multiple seven figures. 16, 17, we were not. By 18, 19, we were back to seven figures, and we have not left yet. In fact, now our portfolio is doing over 8 figures a year. I've bought some businesses in the last few years and really am expanding my footprint. I have this goal and desire to build a $100 million portfolio of companies. Now, I used to think that I would do that through Incredible One Enterprises, but I started to realize that what it would take for this company to do 100 million is really not the business model that I want to have. And so we've expanded into mergers and acquisitions and looking at other ways to acquire assets that allow us to raise our financial positioning. Listen, I'm a mogul. I'm not even a mogul in the making. I don't talk about this out loud a lot, but when it comes to business, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to financial architecture, your girl understands, and she's out here doing the thing. I'm not just talking about it, I'm actually being about it. And our clients and our programs, our House of Millions business advisory programs, get to hear about many of those things. I'm working on doing better and talking about more of these things in the streets, but it's been part of who I've been, if I'm being honest, right? I talked last episode about hiding and the spirit of hiding and how that impacts you from potentially becoming a legacy-led CEO. But we're going to get into all of that and so much more. I know I took us on a tangent. Today, we are talking about what funds everything in your business. And just so we're on the same page, even though I love a good opportunity to talk to you about money, I'm not talking about money today. Today, I'm talking about conviction. Because if you are still making decisions from doubt, from delay, from the data, or even based on what's in your bank account, you, my friend, will never become the kind of CEO that God can trust with divine assignments. Remember, you were not given the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Thank you, Timothy. If you've been doing all the right things, but still feel like you're carrying more weight than you should, it's not your strategy, it's your pattern. There's a hidden way that you lead that's shaping your money, your success, and your peace. And until you see it, you'll keep working harder than you have to. The Ascension Archetypes quiz shows you in just 3 minutes what's been driving your business behind the scenes and what needs to shift so that you can finally experience the overflow you're desiring. It's fast, it's free, and it will give you the language for why things feel harder than they should right now. Go now to movetomillionsquiz.com to find out which archetype is running your business today. Hey, I hate to interrupt the goodness that's happening right now in this episode, but I need you to do me a quick favor. If this episode is blessing your life and business right now, will you take a few moments and rate and review the show? Your words help more millions-minded entrepreneurs find us and step into their next level. All right, thank you so much. Let's get back into the conversation because we're just getting started. So, in this episode, we're going to get into a little bit of a conversation around conviction, what I mean by it, and why it is absolutely centrifugal to your ability to become a legacy-led CEO. And remember, a legacy-led CEO is the 4th level of leadership that you want to actually possess in your business. You might start as a business owner, become an entrepreneur, and then become a CEO, but you have not reached the pinnacle until you are a legacy-led CEO. So let's talk a little bit about conviction. Now, contrary to what you may believe, and maybe even what you know is impacting your business in this current season, I want to be very, very clear that the impetus here is not to be worried about or focused on being funded by revenue? Wait, what now? I know that sounds crazy, but stick with me. Because the end of the day, what this is really about is recognizing that you are funded by what you actually believe, and specifically what you believe when no one else is clapping, clicking, liking, buying, or agreeing. Conviction is the internal certainty of your spiritual instruction that guides your practical movement. It is the clarity that anchors you when results are not yet visible or they are not coming. I'm going to tell you a story in a second. It's the boldness to move in alignment without having to worry about external validation. It's recognizing that your invitation is your validation and you don't need anyone else to put you on because you've already been put on by the one who knows your power. It's about knowing in your knower that the next move is your best move because you're aligned and because you're focused on abundance, regardless of what you might be seeing in that moment. That always makes me think about that song, Praise Him in Advance by Marvin Sapp, where he says in the prelude, he says, I'm looking for a body of believers who refuse to allow what they see to hinder what they believe. And I'm going to take it a step further and say, refuse to allow what they see to hinder what they know to be true. I'm talking about conviction. That certainty that you know, like you know your name is what is required at this level if you want to become a legacy-led CEO. I recently started building a new leadership team for my company. Now, I will spare you all of the gory details of over the years of how the business had gotten to the point where I was the only real leader in the company. I'm not going to get into all of that. It happens. That's all I'm going to say for now. I have to be honest. To decide to rebuild my leadership team, it definitely took conviction. It took courage. It took confidence. Confidence that, I'll be honest, it was like tough to make decisions because leadership team members, those are six-figure roles. I'm talking about a comma and at least 5 zeros, right? Now, I could have allowed fear to keep me as the only decision maker in my company, really being responsible for everything, knowing that God is raising me up for something bigger. I mean, the reason that he told me I've been a moment and I need to be in movement is for what's happening next. And what's happening next, Darnyelle Antoinette cannot be the only person involved in the process to be able to make that happen. I just can't. So the only choice I had was to operate in conviction, to trust God and his provision that doing so would actually be what will help us grow. Listen, like there's only so far you can go if you're the only one who is thinking at that level in your organization, right? That's leadership. No, correct that. That's legacy-led leadership. Now, according to Harvard Business Review, 84% of CEOs say that they've made major decisions that they were not fully confident in. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. 84% of the time. The number one reason that is cited in those decisions is that they had too much data, but not enough clarity. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Clarity comes from obedience, not overthinking. Conviction is the currency. I believe that there are 3 currencies that every legacy-led CEO must build with. Number 1, conviction, your internal knowing and spiritual instruction. Number 2 is capacity, your emotional, spiritual, and energetic resilience. And number 3 is consistency, the disciplined implementation that happens over time. Yes, there is a reason your strategy feels stalled. And I bet you didn't realize it's spiritual. Discover your divine wiring, which informs how you lead, where you sabotage, and how to shift in order to scale with the Move to Millions Ascension Archetype Quiz. In less than 3 minutes, you'll learn what's really blocking your money, your momentum, and your mission. Take the quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com. My best-selling book, Move to Millions, The Proven Framework to Become a $1 Million CEO with Grace and Ease Instead of Hustle and Grind, is now available on Audible. That's right. You can listen to nugget after nugget, strategy after strategy, and chapter after chapter designed to help you to position your business for 7 figures with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. Go to Audible today to get your Audible copy of Move to Millions. Now, I want to be very clear. Deciding to make 3 strategic hires all at the same time, totaling about $300,000 a year in salaries, takes conviction, it takes capacity, it takes confidence, it takes a whole bunch of other C's that maybe I can't even give you right now. But more than that, it takes a clear knowing and embodiment that is God is for me and He is for me. It cannot fail. I cannot fail. And I'll be honest, 2 of the roles have already been filled in our company. And one role, just 30 days have passed. The other, only a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks have passed. And let me just tell you, I can see the difference already. I was thinking about that Folgers jingle and I lost it in my head. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all the obstacles in my way. Like for real, y'all, it's a game changer. I don't know if I can fully describe to you the weight of being the only one who can make the decisions. Y'all know I've recently lost 58 pounds, so that means my shoulders have become smaller. And so holding a company that generates multiple 7 figures a year on my shoulders, the only one making decisions, it was a lot. It was causing an element of stress that was different. I hope you don't mind my transparency. I want to be transparent because I am a believer of having a business that serves you financially and spiritually. And the only way we really get to experience millions and millions done right is if we are willing to build the team that supports us so that we can truly be the CEO. I remind you again that that E in CEO does not stand for everything. I want to talk to you for just a few minutes about the cost of leading without conviction. Because let's be clear, if you lack conviction, you will default to code switching. You become who your audience wants. You keep changing who you are, like you change your panties or your boxers, for my bros that's listening. You start to copy. You do what others are doing because you think it's proven. But copying also means that you're not going to get the result that's designed for you because you're pretending to be and do something else or to be someone else, which is a problem. And then it also causes collapsing. You start to sabotage when you recognize or forget to recognize that sometimes results take time, right? You cannot plant a seed and reap a harvest in the same season. And what you are experiencing today is based on 90 days ago what was done in your business. What you're doing today will be reflected 90 days from now. So you will stop creating an environment for things to happen the way that they're supposed to if you lack conviction. Now, there are, of course, some consequences to this. You will begin to attract misaligned clients who drain you. Oh, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You will start to shift your pricing based on fear, lack, and scarcity. And you'll question every move because you don't trust yourself as a vessel, a voice, and the purveyor of the vision. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go back to you price yourself based on fear for a second. Listen, I know that the market has changed. And because the market has changed, there are some things that we need to do differently. And yes, we need to move differently. But what you don't do is you do not lower the price of a program or service that you've already had in the market. What we're actually teaching our clients to do is the exact opposite. We're teaching them to look at the feasibility of creating a different entry point for a client and then moving them into their signature offer at the price point that's already been assigned to it. The worst thing you could ever do is to drop your prices. That is lack and scarcity. That is not legacy-led CEO behavior, for the record. If you don't believe in what you've been anointed to build, why should anyone else? And your pricing is a direct reflection of that. So you want to keep that in mind. Let's talk for a moment about God-given conviction versus ego-driven confidence. Yes, it is a thing. Ego says, I've got this, but conviction says, God gave me this. Here's what I also want to be clear about. When you know that God gave you something, there is an element of surrender that you get to employ that is entirely different. The conversations you get to have with God, the conversations you get to have with yourself are very different in this particular regard. I believe that ego will build platforms, but conviction is what builds sanctuaries. Oh. Ego wants praise, but conviction seeks permission to pour. I believe that conviction is not loud. I believe that it is obedient, it is divine, it is unshakable. And this is really where legacy-led CEOs become unstoppable, not because they force their way, but because they're aligned with God's way. They're recognizing the significance that the soul plays in conjunction with the strategy, which I believe makes all the difference in the world. So here are some questions I want you to ask yourself. Where in your business are you still leading from preference instead of divine instruction? What would change if you made every decision from conviction instead of convenience? And where have you confused waiting on clarity with avoiding courage? Ooh, I want you to really think about that. Because here's what I know. When you begin to lead with conviction and trust the instructions that you've already been given, your business becomes funded by obedience. And that is what moves you into the fourth level of leadership, which is being a legacy-led CEO. I want you to get excited about what's possible for you as you really anchor in to being a legacy-led CEO. So if this episode reminded you of who you are, if it's called you into obedience over optics, then I want you to get excited because that means that you are becoming a legacy-led CEO and you are doing so in real time. I want to invite you to share this episode with a leader who's playing too small because they're waiting for evidence. And I want you to make sure that you join me next week so that we can continue to unpack this powerful series. Next week, we'll talk all about the 7 practices of a legacy-led CEO because legacy is not built on vibes. It's built on consecrated rhythms. Until then, I want you to lead with conviction. I want you to build with boldness. And I want you to remember millions are your birthright. And to access them, you need only move. That O in move is operational obedience. So I want you to focus on your mastery, your operational obedience, your vision, and your ability to execute. Not just for you, but for the legacy that you're leading for others. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me for the Move to Millions podcast. If this episode has impacted you in any way, would you please take a moment and rate and review? Doing so helps us to deepen our impact and expand our reach around the world. And if you are ready to start your very own Move to Millions, I highly recommend that you order your very own copy of my brand new best-selling book, Move to Millions, the proven framework to become a $1 million CEO with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. You can get your copy and our bonuses today at movetomillionsbook.com. Until next time, remember, millions are your birthright, and to access them, you need only move. I'll see you next time.